12 o'clock. Thank you for joining us at this time. You're watching News Analysis live on Politics and Business TV. The top stories: President Bola Ahmed Tinubu appeals for patience from Nigerians over the current economic hardship in the country. Nigerian Communications Commission rules out extension of deadline for the linkage of SIM cards to national identification numbers. Nigeria Police Force says most kidnap cases in the country were fake or stage managed. Details coming up shortly. All right, welcome back. I am Omoefe P. Sosemer. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has appealed for patience from Nigerians over the current economic hardship in the country, given the assurance that there was light at the end of the tunnel. The president said he was fully aware and took responsibility for the difficulties Nigerians had been subjected to on account of government policies. The president, who stated this in Akure, the Ondo state capital, during his visit to the leader of the Pan-Yoruba socio-political organization, Afinefere, Pa Ruben Fasoranti, said he would not complain but welcome all criticisms since he was the one who asked to be Nigeria's president. Tinubu's comments are against the backdrop of the fuel subsidy removal and other economic reforms which have attracted public criticisms following the high cost of living, food inflation, and other side effects. Meanwhile, the president also reportedly paid a condolence visit to the family of the late former Ondo State Governor Rotimi Akeredolu, who passed away December last year following a protracted battle with cancer. And now to other matters, workers and the federal government have disagreed over how the implementation of the Steve Orunsaye report will affect jobs in the country. While the federal government allayed fears of job losses in the implementation of the report, which seeks to rationalize government agencies and parastatals, workers warned that there will be massive job losses. However, the government's move reportedly got the nod of the Labour Party presidential candidate in the 2023 general election, Peter Obi, who said that being in opposition did not warrant blind and thoughtless criticism. Cautioning the government against hasty action, he added that if well implemented, the Steve Orunsaye report will cut the high cost of governance and eliminate responsibilities overlap that causes ineffectiveness and inefficiency. He also urged the government to cut waste and redirect funds to education, healthcare, and poverty eradication. Now, the Owerri and Anambra State Zone of the Academic Staff Union of Universities has lamented what it described as payment of same salary to its members for the past 15 years. This was just as it also expressed concerns about the union's engagement with both federal and various state governments on how to reposition public universities for national development, sequel to the federal government and ASU agreement of 2009 have been jettisoned by the parties involved. This was disclosed by the Owerri ASU Zonal Coordinator Dennis Aribodo during a press conference at the Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Okwa, pointing out that both the administrations of former President Muhammadu Buhari and the incumbent President Bola Ahmed Tinubu have abandoned the main elements of the 2009 agreement and other lingering issues that led to the nationwide strike action of February to October 2022. Flanked by other executive members of the zonal union, Aribodo also disclosed that academic staff in public universities have been on the same salary structure for 15 years. He therefore urged the federal government to speedily put a final closure to the renegotiation by directing the upward review of academic staff emolument in view of current economic realities and the signing of the draft agreement reached with the Nimi Briggs Committee. The Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, has ruled out an extension of the February 28, 2024 deadline for the linkage of subscriber identity model cards to national identification numbers. As a result, telecommunication companies have been directed to bar 12 million lines which have not been linked to the owner's name after the expiration of the deadline. The Director of Public Affairs at NCC, Ruben Moka, who confirmed the development, reaffirmed the NCC's stance, maintaining that a public notice had been issued in this regard, and if there was an extension, NCC would have communicated. Right, you're watching news analysis live on Politics and Business TV. Still to come, Central Bank of Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee, MPC, has raised the monetary policy rate, MPR, by 400 basis points to 22.75% from 18.75%. Now, reports have it that this is the highest recorded rate in at least 18 years, which brings to mind factors that may have triggered this aggressive hike. A political economist, Dr. Aliyu Ilias, will be joining us in a moment to help us get sense of this development and its implications. This and more after the break. Do join us again. Right, welcome back. You're watching News Analysis live on Politics and Business TV. Let's now head on to Edo State, where the People's Democratic Party governorship candidate, Dr. Asue Ighodalo, has promised to surpass the achievement of incumbent Governor Godwin Obaseki if he wins the September 21 governorship poll. Ighodalo stated this while addressing his supporters at the Benin airport shortly after his return from Abuja. According to media reports, Ighodalo received his certificate of return on Tuesday at the PDP Secretariat in Abuja, having won the party's governorship primary conducted last week Thursday. He polled 577 votes to defeat 9 other governorship aspirants, including Edo State Deputy Governor Philip Shaibu, who conducted a parallel primary. Addressing his supporters, Ighodalo thanked them for coming out in large numbers to welcome him and promised never to disappoint them. Meanwhile, Shaibu, who was at the National Secretariat of the PDP in Abuja yesterday, argued that if the party's leadership heeded his demand and issued him the certificate of return, there would not be the need to go to court. But if not, he will not have any choice but to seek interpretation by the court. The Nigeria Police Force yesterday declared that most kidnapped cases in the country were fake or stage managed. The force public relations officer, Muyiwa Adejobi, made this declaration during the 14th edition of biennial police games tagged Oluyele 2024 held in Ibadan, Oyo State capital. According to him, security challenges in Nigeria are not as bad as most Nigerians believe, stressing that most Nigerians believe what they see on social media, which is being regenerated and recycled as current issues. He therefore urged Nigerians to assist the police and other security agencies in tackling insecurity, adding that people should raise alarm so that police can take action against insecurity. To other matters, the Central Bank of Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee, MPC, has raised the monetary policy rate, MPR, by 400 basis points to 22.75% from 18.75%. Governor of Apex Bank, Yemi Cardoso, who announced this after the first MPC meeting for the year in Abuja on Tuesday, stressed that with inflation at 29.90%, the new MPR is part of moves to tackle the country's inflation. Cardoso said all 12 members of the committee decided to further tighten monetary policy by raising the MPR by 400 basis, adjust the asymmetric corridor around the MPR to plus 100 to minus 700 from plus 100 to 300 basis points. According to media reports, the MPR has been 18.75% since the last MPC meeting between 24th and 25th of July 2023. Cardoso, who chairs the MPC, also said the cash reserve ratio, CRR, has been raised to 45%, while the liquidity ratio was left unchanged at 30%. MPC meeting, policy implications and the way forward on News Analysis. Today I have my guest, a political economist, Dr. Aliyu Ilias. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, there have been fears. I don't know how much of a concern this development is to you, but of course, members of the private sector, they've come out to say that, look, with this development, the days ahead, won't be nice at all, coupled with all of the economic hardship that Nigerians are dealing with at the moment. But let's start by getting your thoughts. Did you see this coming?
Not at all. I never see 400 basis increment in the MPC policy for MPR rather. But as it is now, I'm wondering, because the fact remains that in as much as the essence of the CBN is to make sure that they work on price stability. Right. Now, you don't work on price stability jettisoning the fiscal policy in totality. So I think as we are having price stability, we also be having a fiscal policy that will endear investors to within Nigeria and outside Nigeria. So for me, if you ask me, I think those policies are going to be counterproductive.
Well, reports have it that this is the highest recorded rate in 18 years. Now, one would wonder what may have triggered this, this hike.
Now,
in the interest rate.
I think it has positive and it has negative implication. Now, the interest rate is going to attract more foreign direct investment. But the question is that those that are coming for foreign direct investment, are they coming to this volatility, this insecurity, these challenges we are having, which is the challenge. Then number two is that the negative part is that it's discouraging for local manufacturers, because if you are saying that I should come and borrow at this level of percentage, right? It becomes so difficult for me to borrow, because if I borrow, I have to use it to produce. Now remember, if you even produce in Nigeria today, manufacturers are saying that they have unsold. What does that simply mean? Simply means they produce, and Nigerians does not have the purchasing power to buy from them. So that simply means they will even at a point say, no, there's no need for me to invest, since if I produce, I'm going to have unsold. Since if I borrow money, I'm going to pay in high interest rate. Let me also put my money to where I'll collect interest rather than investing the money. So it has negative and positive. More so, if we had a positive impact of the removal of subsidy, now the money we share now, in fact, state that usually gets, all the states, maybe they usually share 600 billion naira. Now they are now sharing 1.2 trillion, 1.1 trillion. Has that reflected in the development? Have you seen capital projects going on in Nigeria? So when you are increasing the monetary side of it, you should also use fiscal policy to balance it, so that people will have purchasing power. If there's a construction, like Abuja have construction now the construction that is going, it makes people will have much more liquidity, and that liquidity will go into the market, by so the people will have money to buy. But it is not reflecting the money. More so with the issue of naira floating. Now, if you have 600 billion naira before Tinubu came into power, what that 600 billion naira will purchase is not what 1 trillion naira will purchase, because the value has been depreciated. Yeah. So these are the problems.
Well, as it is, this CBN governor under the leadership of Yemi Cardoso seems to be, should I say, oblivious of the economic reality on ground, and perhaps they introduce policies that are perhaps not realistic.
Well, like I said, the fact just, if you look at Tinubu government, right from the day he emerged as president, he has been giving us a premature policy. How do I mean? They are much more reactive than being proactive. Before you came into power, you should have seen the status of the Nigeria economy. Now that you came into power, you have seen the magnitude of the problem. So when you are bringing up policy should be human, face. Perhaps if you are if you are bringing about any policy, it has ripple effect. So you should also be preparing for the ripple effect. So that means the floating of naira is the effect we are seeing now, and you don't have anything to cushion the effect. You remove the first subsidy, you don't have any palliative that is much more structural, like CNG working, like direct intervention. There is nothing like that. So it becomes a very difficult. So Cardoso also came in now, increasing the MPR from 18.75% to 22.75%. Simply means that you are attracting foreign investment while you are killing the domestic companies.
So at the end of the day, one would say it's not realistic.
It's not realistic.
If you look at the economic, atmosphere at the moment, how conducive is it?
If you even look at the inflation, what's the drivers of inflation? You see, the driver of inflation is much more of structural issue, food cost, insecurity. Why not tackle this thing and make sure you bring other solutions? So now it's going to be counter productive, yeah. I can tell you.
So just like you said, I mean, your thoughts are not completely different from what the governor of the Apex Bank has said, that the current inflationary trend is driven by non-monetary factors such as, persistent insecurity and infrastructural deficits. And how then do you juxtapose the fact that you want to now use, hike in the interest rate
to
address inflation?
Right, it's gladding that you even acknowledge that the problem of Nigeria is not all what he's fighting for. It is much more structure, such as infrastructure, such as insecurity, food driven. So now what they need to do is that to go back to fiscal policy, which is government now, which is, Tinubu himself. Tinubu should declare state of emergency correctly under insecurity and make the food emergency he declare also work. Because
what difference has that made?
The fact is,
instead of emergency,
they made mention of this. They said there is going to be all-round food production, all-round farming rather. We have not seen it reflecting. Another thing is that the supply chain. If you don't get the right supply chain, it's a problem. If I am going to London from Abuja, it takes me 5 hours. But if I have a consignment in Tinkan Island, it takes me like 2 days, 3 days. You do see the difference. So we must work on our supply chain. If I have a produce in Jos Plateau, how do I transport it down to Abuja? How secure it is? How many days will it take? What about the transport cost? So these are the things. So I think all what happened is just brought down to the policy direction of the president. And rightly yesterday he said, when he was in Ondo State, he said he acknowledged that Nigerians should be patient. How far do we go to? Yeah. So are you telling those people that lost their life when they want to buy rice from custom, are you telling them to be patient? Now they are dead. So how many patients would they have, and how many people would have lost their life?
Let's even talk about this rice issue. I mean, the local rice that is supposed to be a thing of pride for us Nigerians. I mean, the previous administration, under former President Muhammadu Buhari, as at when the rice pyramid was launched, I mean, a number of Nigerians were excited that at the end of the day we won't have to spend so much to get rice, and at the end of the day we are left with no option but to patronize our own local rice. But here we are. How much is a bag of local rice now?
Well, as an economist, you don't calculate the way you just calculated now. Now, because we have rice self-sufficiency, it's not enough for us to have low price. Because, dollar, it's another issue. People don't see the relationship.
No, now, help us get
yes, let me tell you. We have 1,400 naira now. If this stabilizes for 1 month, it will reflect in the cost of goods and services in Nigeria. And that's why people don't know. So, if I get money, a rice miller or a paddy rice owner also collect that money from you and also buy from another market. So it's also spending. So once there is inflation generally, once there is a foreign exchange problem, it affects everything. And that's why we must also solve the fundamental issues and coupled with the issue of insecurity. So it's pretty difficult for you to say, you want to. I can tell you to an extent we have self-sufficiency in rice. The anchor borrower and the Buhari policy on rice actually work. And that's why we want
short term.
No. People are still in the business, irrespective of we still have political anchor borrower collector.
What do you mean by that?
You're right. Some people are not real farmers and they collect the money, but the majority is political farmers, right? Okay. So, but people that actually produce rice farm, they have increased in capacity because look at millers around. They are still working, but the thing is, does it reflect in day to day? And is it only rice that we are going to eat? What about other things that we're going to eat?
Rice is something that Nigerians actually consume a lot.
For now, right? Before when I was much younger, rice is like a week food we eat. But now, a lubot that people eat, gari, is much more even expensive than that rice, and that is the problem.
It's really, really disturbing. I mean, the way the prices of foodstuff and other essentials, keep soaring in the country. But how would you react to concerns by members of the private sector who have stressed that the MPC decision, which a number of people have tagged aggressive, would actually, lead to fresh job losses?
Right.
Don't forget the current unemployment rate.
Right. If you look, then when we even say organized private sector, we have MAN, we have NECA, you know, we have this medium and small scale. Now, remember that if a manufacturer fails to have money to do businesses, he will start producing, and when he start producing, it will have to lay people off. There will be unemployment. That's the ripple effect. When I cannot produce, and then why should I engage staff? So the more they have power to produce, the more they sell, the more they have money to do business, the more they employ. That is just the basic arithmetic, and it's applied in this case. And that's why we said the MPC decision will be counterproductive. Instead of it to help, you know, to alleviate poverty, it's going to, in the other way around, encourage and discourage people from doing business as usual. Because if I am to borrow at that percentage, let me keep my money, or let me also engage in racketeering, so to say. I'm not saying that's the right thing, but that's the thinking of average businessmen, because they are out to make profit. So if you don't make profit, it's better you don't even lose your money, and that's how people think in business.
So with the way things are going, if you had to do some sort of projections, like what do you see the inflation rate, you know, what point do you see it getting?
We are at 29.9 now. From the way we are looking at things, I don't think we have any hope for this second quarter. So, and they will have opportunity to also do MPC meeting. You know, Cardoso is doing it for the first time. We hope he will be doing it, if not monthly, maybe every 3 months. So by so doing, they have to like look at it very well and make sure we do something about it. It's quite pathetic that we are still raising it, and even cash reserve ratio, it's another problem, because you're not saying 45%. That means people, there will be reduced money, because for now they are saying we have about 3.6 trillion maybe in circulation in terms of cash. They want to reduce it to help reduce inflation, but I tell you, it's a counterproductive, because you have to encourage manufacturers that is even crying that they don't have access to dollars. You are now still saying no, come and collect money in a big interest rate. So people, that simply means you will start receiving message as a businessman that the money you borrow from us, the interest has increased, you are going to pay more, and if you want to get new, this is the size of it. So you have to just change your mind and maybe hold on when things get better, and in the long run that leads to unemployment for Nigerians. This
hike, you know, in the interest rates, you know, how does it translate to addressing the free fall of the naira?
Well, for me, that's why I said they are actually looking at foreign direct investment. So this policy is, you know, their aim is to stabilize. They want to stabilize the naira.
The benefits attached to this foreign direct investment, if you had to weigh it, like what percentage?
Well, it will not even reflect, because they will not even come. Now that GSK, Cadbury, Nestle is even saying they didn't make any profit. You know, when they are leaving, you are attracting more. You have to face home problems, solve the home problem, then you can now attract. So that's why and perhaps any business that is coming will look at how well is the one that in Nigeria are doing first before they will come. So it's going to be counterproductive, if you ask me.
But don't you think some of these multinational, you know, business firms that exit Nigeria, there is some sort of
conspiracy. I don't think there's conspiracy. It's about profit issues, because Nestle said they lost a whole lot. GSK said dollar is their problem. You know, they want to also repatriate their money. So when they do business in Nigeria and they collect naira, by the time they will take naira to their country, it doesn't have value. So they don't have business doing that business again. So they have to like hold on or find way. And that's why we also tell NAFDAC and other people that look for alternative before these people will go. You know, the aim of foreign direct investment is to even encourage Nigerians to have that technical knowledge. Are we doing it? The answer is no.
You know, a number of people had expressed, you know, fears that the economy is already dollarized. How can that be addressed?
It's 80% dollarized, because everything you want to do now is, I can tell you, was it 3 days ago, I have to pay $199. I have to pay $320,000. I even say I should have waited so that by the time it's come to 1.3, I should have paid. You know, look at that flight, that capital flight, that gap where I would have paid 150,000 and paying 330, and I must do that business. I must buy that software I want to buy in dollars, and that's the problem.
How did you source, you know, or get the dollars?
No, we have to
black market.
No, you have to do it online. You have to use a direct business. Black market is even becoming much more problem. You know, they just bring out a regulation. I'm sure it's a talking point for you someday too. You know, it's a big issue now because of the regulation. They don't have first tier and second tier, and they have issue with Binance. So it's a serious issue. A lot of things.
Wait, our priorities, are they misplaced? Is Binance the issue?
I think it's much more cosmetic approach. Instead of them to face the real issue, they are now facing Binance. That's what I think. Because there are other things you could do. If you have a strong regulation or you strangulate them, sort of, they will not have a chance to even really do well in your economy, let alone now you are now doing cosmetic approach, arresting them. You know, what should have done underground? A good economy would have done those things underground, because that saying it out is also a negative externality for the Nigerian economy.
Wow. Well, for my guest, the days ahead, I mean, one has to be very prudent, because the days ahead are perhaps, you know, quite gloomy. So there is need for, you know, cautious spending. So you have to spend wisely. I think that is what, you know, this is all about. But thank you so much for talking to us on, you know, the policy implications of this just concluded MPC meeting. A political economist, Dr. Aliyu Ilias, has been my guest. Thank you once again.
Thank you for having me.
And that's it for news analysis today. Thank you so much for watching. I am MPC Sosemere, and I'll be back at the top of the hour with the news update. Good afternoon.
So, my name. So sometimes they hear politics, they'll say this one is coming to condemn us. So I'm an economist.